But until the British can take Fort Duquesne at the forks of the Ohio, they'll never win the West. General Edward Braddock's devastating failure to take the forks in 1755 has left the British High Command wary. No one wants to repeat Braddock's errors. So in 1758, when the British turn their attention back to Fort Duquesne, they send a general who has no illusions about what he's up against.
This country is an immense, uninhabited wilderness, overgrown everywhere so that one cannot see 20 yards.
General John Forbes, a determined Scotsman, will carve a road through the wilderness in a methodical way. He will build a fort or staging post every 50 miles from Philadelphia to the forks of the Ohio. A strategy designed to avoid the fate that befell Braddock's army. But Forbes realizes that to conquer Fort Duquesne, he will need to do more than just march his army through the forest. He tries something no British general has done before. He makes diplomatic overtures to the Ohio Country Indians.
I desire to set a treaty on foot between the Shawnee, the Delaware, and the people of Pennsylvania to deprive the French of their friendship.
He will have to reverse decades of native bitterness over English duplicity. And he is seriously ill. General Forbes is determined to see Fort Duquesne fall before he dies. For help, Forbes turns to an unlikely ally, an eastern Delaware chief named Tediuscung. More than 50 years old, Tediuscung has a long and tangled history with both the British and the French. He had once embraced Christianity. Baptized, he took the name Gideon and hoped this new faith would help him find a secure homeland for his people and himself.
I sit as a bird upon a bough. I look about and do not know where to go. Let me therefore come down upon the ground and make that my own, and I shall have a home forever.
But a year into the French and Indian War, Tediuscung left Christianity behind and turned to war instead, attacking British settlers moving onto land that had been stolen through fraudulent treaties. Waging war seemed the best way to send a message that he and his people are a power to be reckoned with.
This very ground that is under me was our land and inheritance. And was taken from us by fraud. And the Indians have suffered for it. We are not such fools.
The Indians could make peace, and the Indians could break peace when it is made.
As much as Tediuscung wanted to call the shots, the reality of war made that difficult. His followers were starving, and he realized that coming to terms with the British would be the only way to achieve security and land for his people. Encouraged by Pennsylvania's pacifist Quakers, Tediuscung started a peace process in the Ohio country just in time to help General Forbes. 4 years earlier, It had been an Indian leader, the half-king, who triggered the war in the Ohio country. Now a different native leader would be the key to ending it. Titiuscung finds two men to carry the message of peace west, a Delaware chief named Piscatoman and a Delaware-speaking missionary, Christian Frederick Post.
The great king of England does not incline to have war with the Indians, but wants to live in peace and love with them. If they lay down the hatchet and leave off war against them. They said to me, "Why do you come to fight in our land?" This makes everybody believe you want to take the land from us. I said, I did not intend to take the land from them, but only to drive the French away.
The Indians listen, but are skeptical. The English reputation for land swindles is hard to overcome. Forbes' emissaries assure the Indian leaders that this time it will be different. Even as the diplomats do their work, General Forbes continues to cut his road through the woods toward Fort Duquesne. The dense forest isn't his only impediment. The young Virginia colonel, George Washington, has rejoined the army for the final push to conquer the forks of the Ohio. And Washington had his own ideas about the best route the British Army should take. Forbes plans to build his road west from Philadelphia, the shortest possible path. Whichever route it follows, Forbes's road will pave the way for a rush of traders and settlers to the Ohio country. Washington lobbies hard to get Forbes to change his plans and instead follow General Braddock's southern route, which would favor Virginia. He doesn't hold back on his opinion of Forbes.
The conduct of our leaders is tempered with something I don't care to put a name to.
Forbes gets hold of a letter Washington wrote.
Could not discover the bottom from whence this sprang, until Colonel Washington, in a letter, thoroughly shows himself the leader of their foolish suggestions.
Indeed, I will go further and say they are dupes, or worse, to Pennsylvanian artifice, to whose selfish views I attribute this miscarriage.
The Virginians came such a length as to be most singularly impertinent.
It has long been the luckless fate of poor Virginia to fall victim to her crafty neighbors. We can now only bewail that blindness and wish for happier times.
In the end, Washington doesn't get his way. Forbes Road carves the path that will eventually become the Pennsylvania Turnpike. In the autumn of 1758, Forbes reaps the rewards of his diplomatic efforts. The colonists sign a historic treaty with several Indian nations. The Pennsylvanians pledge no new settlements west of the Allegheny Mountains. The Indians promise peace. Titiuscung is instrumental in bringing the sides together. In return, he is guaranteed thousands of acres for his people to build a farming community. Finally, peaceful coexistence with the white man seems within reach. By November, Forbes's army is within 50 miles of the forks of the Ohio. They're at Ligonier, the jumping-off point for the final assault on Fort Duquesne. For the first time in 3 years, British scouts can now see the fort and try to gauge the enemy's strength. In preparation for the assault, Forbes orders 2 parties of soldiers to chase down raiders who stubbornly continue to harass the British. George Washington leads one of the squads. The other is commanded by his close friend, Colonel George Mercer. The 2 groups come across each other in heavy fog.
Find the target and keep firing! It's Mercer! Hold your fire! Hold your fire, men! It's Mercer!
When the fog clears for a moment, Washington realizes the terrible mistake.
Hold your fire!
He throws himself between the 2 lines, indifferent to the musket balls flying past his head. When the friendly fire skirmish was over, 2 officers and 38 men were dead or wounded. Incredibly, George Washington was unhurt. This was only his 4th major military action and not one he could take any pride in. But no one could question his remarkable bravery or his luck. Years later, he recalled that this was the most dangerous moment of his life and speculated that perhaps Providence might have spared him for some other purpose. Just 2 weeks later, on November 23rd, 1758, Forbes' army is finally ready to make its assault on Fort Duquesne. But rather than fight a battle they know they will lose, the outnumbered French destroy the fort and withdraw to Canada. Without firing a shot, General Forbes has won the prize. He renames the spot Pittsburgh for the Prime Minister who made victory possible. A few months later, he is dead.